down with OTC? Are you down with OTC? OTC. Are you down with OTC? Are you down with OTC? OTC. Are you down with OTC? Down with OTC. Down with OTC.
Welcome to On the Chain. This is Chip. That is Jeff is not here actually tonight. Jeff is flying back. He's flying back from an undisclosed secret location. And big shout out to everybody tonight. We've got a good show. This is our Thursday edition. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. I think I covered it all. Yeah, so we're going to dive into a bunch of different things here today. Some great Ripple stuff happening out there. Chris Larsen's attorneys following suit with what Brad Garlinghouse did, filing to dismiss, hitting some key points. And again, I just love this Ripple. All of the attorneys with Brad, with Chris, they're phenomenal. So we'll get into that a little bit. We're also going to dive in a little bit to some other, we're going to go around, talk about some Bitcoin stuff, because I think it's important we get into it in a sense that Bitcoin is laying some foundation. We always like, well, when is the mass adoption happening? Well, it's happening right now. Look, it's everywhere. It's on everyone's radar. People are flooding in, and it's still a trickle compared to where it is almost everywhere else. So with that being said, let's get this puppy started. Let's do it. Let's go.
Welcome to On the Chain with Jeff and Chip.
Welcome everybody. Welcome. It's your first time here. You know what to do. Click that little subscribe button. You know, the little red one. Subscribe. Click that little notification bell. You'll be notified anytime we drop videos. And my gosh, we only have like 7,000 subs on our other channel. That's our short form. I know you guys love the live streams, but please go down in the description And please go sub to that other channel because we do drop short form, 10, 15-minute ones. Usually Jeff will do one. We've done them together. Jeff will drop one, I'll drop one, but it's kind of like things we want to just really one or two subject matters. Sometimes I'll breeze through some tweets, something along those lines, but drop where you're in there. I want to engage with you guys tonight. I want to hear what's going on with you. And again, see where your heads are at because there's lots of stuff going on. We got Ronnie Sides talking about Gary G, Money Gensler, and Steve Willits. Good day, guys. Good day, lurkers. Very good. And Jeff, there he is. Hey, welcome down the chain. Coming to you from 30,000 feet. Jeff is up in the air. So like I said, he's coming back from an undisclosed location. It just sort of happens to fall right when we're doing the show. And that's what it is. Oh, we're talking a lot of scotch. David Schmall is talking about a little Fittich, a little Glen Fittich there. I know we were talking about some Talisker, and I don't know if you ever saw this. Jeff and I might have to do another one. We actually did a live whiskey stream. Oh yeah, we did. We did a whiskey stream, and that was interesting. I got to tell you about that. That was, yeah, it's back in the archives. You guys can do it. I think it was like a Friday night. We thought maybe we'd just get into it, but I want to dive into. Up here. I'm stuck on beer or wine. Apparently, no more options. Well, at least you have that, Jeff. It's better than water. It's not the worst thing you can suffer through with, Hello from Fort Lauderdale, JC Garcia, what's up? Hello from Boca Raton, man. How are you? You're literally about 20 minutes away from me right now. How about that? And see what else is going on in here. What's going on, Chip, says Norseman. What's the word? Great show last night. Yeah, it was so great for Crypto Eddie to come on here. We chat every once in a while, and I was like, hey, Jeff's going to be traveling for 2 days. I said, hey, would you want to come on as a guest? She's like, oh yeah, I'd love to. So it was really cool. And man, that just flew by last night, but it's great. I mean, she's really one of the best in the business, if you will, does great research. Always a joy to have her on. She's been on the show. I don't know, it might've been her 4th, 5th or 6th time. She's been on quite a bit, but we hadn't had her on in like maybe 7 or 8 months. So it was kind of a weird sort of a thing. We got a lot of whiskey chat going on here. I'm enjoying this a lot. So Scalper says, I used to live in Lauderdale. I'm a Northeast high hurricane. Nice, man. Very, very nice. Vegas still afloat. There you go. There we go there. So let's dive in head first into the shallow end for some maximum impact here. I want to dive into this Chris Larsen one because, and again, I hope that I don't have any issues with my screen share. If I do, that means I'm going to pop off the screen share, guys. But let's see if it works. And if it freezes, then we'll see what happens. So, all right. So this article came out. Chris Larsen, obviously the executive chairman, he joined company CEO Brad Garlinghouse in moving to dismiss the securities violation filed by U.S. Securities and Exchange Commission. Court was filed on Wednesday. Larsen's attorneys provided 4 arguments, and we'll jump into them a little bit. We're not going to go crazy detail. The letter is really short as it is, but again, they totally nail it. Great attorneys. According to the letter, the SEC cannot substantiate its claims that Larsen knowingly or recklessly, and that was one of the things, that's one of the funny things that we talked about. Jeff and I brought up the fact that when they did the amended complaint, they basically just like, you know what, we didn't have enough recklessly's in there. Let's add one over here. Let's put another recklessly here. Let's go, I think we'll stick another recklessly here. And man, those figures don't look right. They're too low. Let's increase those figures. That's a lot of what they did in this whole thing. They're like, we gotta make sure that gets added to it. And I mean, they added some other things here and there. We did the breakdown on some of the minor changes that they had there, but not too big of a deal. But let's jump here. Here, I want to jump into this actual. Let's see. There you go. There's Chris right there. You think he looks worried? He's like, I got this, bitches. Look at that face right there. You see how he's looking at you? Don't mess with me, man. I got the best attorneys. Don't mess with me. And it's exactly, he's a good guy though. He just donated, I think it was $1.7 million, and he's donated a lot of money. He's a very charitable fellow. He's not a guy that sits back and says, well, let's talk about how you spend your money. He's not that kind of a guy. So here I have this was the letter to the Honorable Annalisa Torres, who is the judge in the matter. And they go on the first paragraph, just say who they represent, Larsen, and the above referenced action. The very first point they make here is the SEC has failed to plausibly allege that Mr. Larsen had the requisite state of mind for aiding and abetting under Section 15B of the Securities Act. And what they're getting into here is when you're talking about aiding and abetting, it's like, well, I could go and say, well, Norseman, Norseman was aiding and abetting in something that went down, or I could say XRP Trust, anybody from the chat, Surdon. Problem is, you got to go ahead and you got to sort of like, you got to be a little bit more, you got to be a little more substantial than that. So what they're saying is the central claim in the complaint is that defendants' transactions in XRP, the digital asset, to make a more efficient payments transfers have not been investment contracts. And really, this is what this whole thing centers on. Was it an investment contract? All this other fluffy stuff going on in there. You did this and finger pointing and blah, blah, blah. Bottom line is, it wasn't an investment contract. That's one of the first points that they're alleging. They're saying the court will never have to reach the question for Mr. Larsen because the SEC, in a significant departure from its own precedent, has heightened its own burden in this case by charging Mr. Larsen with aiding and abetting Ripple's alleged violations of Section 5. The amended complaint simply cannot support the claim and should be dismissed. So that's the first time we hear you should dismiss, right? Second thing they get into here and go on, they discuss all the reasons why they should, blah, 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 blah. Here we go. Hang on. So the SEC, number two, the SEC fails to plausibly allege that Mr. Larsen provided the company with substantial assistance in carrying out its sales of XRP. So again, they're alleging all this stuff, but they never quite get into exactly where was the substantial evidence or what did he actually do that really assisted with XRP carrying out the sales. Number three over here talks about the SEC fails to plead a domestic transaction under the Supreme Court's decision in Morrison. Here, despite challenging over $500 million in XRP transaction, the SEC fails to even allege that not one was completed in the United States. The amended complaint attempts to ground Larsen's sales in the U.S. by alleging that he sold his XRP to investors in the United States. And number two, directed his offers and sales from within the United States, sometimes to persons in the United States. So you remember that the SEC only has jurisdiction in the United States, and what they're alleging is that somehow Larsen did this, and they say that sometimes the person, they said, made offers or sales that occurred at unnamed platforms, either incorporated or based in the U.S., but such allegations do not plead facts establishing that the parties incurred irrevocable liability within the United States. So again, where did he actually physically sell that XRP? Was it done with an exchange outside the U.S.? So that's basically the crux of that. And then number four, they get into the SEC's claim for monetary relief are time barred. So in an unsuccessful attempt to avoid the dictates of Morrison, this SEC has alleged that Mr. Larsen's sales were part of a single ongoing Section 5 violation that began in 2013. Having attempted to plead a single ongoing violation, however, the SEC has conceded the entirety of its request for monetary penalties and disgorgement against Larsen is time barred. So it's now well known that the 5-year limits of statute of limitation has run out. So what they're getting to there is like, well, if the statute of limitation has run out, why are they alleging? Why are they going back more than 5 years? Okay, sure, they in the original complaint they did talk a little bit about that, but again, when they say time barred, it's capped at 5 years. So at the time it was filed in 2020. Furthest it could go back is 2015. And again, so if you're just forget about everything else. If you're just pleading that point to the judge, telling the judge that, hey, this one fact alone really should be enough because it's past the 5-year right of redemption there. So it's not going to make a difference here. Let me look in here. Let's see. So Guy last, if the United States Treasury Department labeled XRP a security, why is the United States Securities and Exchange Commission alleging it's a security? Asking because I'm dumb and I only have common sense. Well, that's part of it. The problem is that every government agency has its own sort of jurisdiction, right? So if FinCEN came out and talked about it as a currency, you had the Department of Justice, coming out. The Department of Justice says, well, they also label it a currency. Problem is, all these government agencies, and the SEC really is the investment side, the enforcement side, if you will. they don't always commingle. So this is the kind of thing that really drives people crazy. You have FinCEN, who's been basically auditing Ripple for 5 years. They fined them back in I think it was 2014, 15. They paid a fine. Hey, but again, they didn't know where the lines were. It's like, well, okay, if we did something wrong, why didn't you guys tell us ahead of time? The time thing right there is something. And there's Jeff chiming in. Jeff, I'm glad that you can hear us here. That's pretty cool. Glad that you can maybe, or maybe you can't hear us. Maybe you can. I don't know. Jeff, chime in if you can hear us there, because I don't know. Sometimes that stuff is spotty on the airlines there. And but I want to jump into this other part right here. I actually put a tweet out on this because I think Hester Pierce has gone all kinds of crazy town on us, and I'll explain why. Because she's been tweeting up a storm lately. And, I know affectionately everybody refers to her as Crypto Mom, but I've rebranded her as Enforcement Mom, because she's off talking about all kinds of stuff, when in reality, what is she doing? Enforcement. That's pretty much it, right? That's what she's talking about. That's what she's getting into. So she tweets out, here she is. Let's see if we can throw this on screen here. She puts this up there. This couple hours ago at 3 o'clock today, she goes, hey, what does all this SEC talk about climate mean? Maybe not much. Hey, Hester, what does all this SEC talk about? Nothing. Why don't you stick to getting some stuff done? So she shares another blog post, and this is going to tie into some other stuff we have tonight as well. But here's this blog post, right? So it's two commissioners. This is Elad Roisman. If you remember him, he was the acting chair until Gary Gensler was confirmed by Congress, so he's now just a standard commissioner, just like Crypto Mom, or Enforcement Mom, I should say, right? So they go on. I'm not going to get into this whole thing because, gosh, I might just fall asleep on stream right here. She goes on to talk about the steady flow of climate statements and blah, 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 and the climate thing and the acting chair and climate change. Okay, I've had enough of that. I'm already done with that, right? So I had to respond to this because I'm really getting a little bit over this whole thing. Hey, what is going on here? Boo. There we go. Let me jump on here. Hello. Remember, guys, my internet's running a little bit slow, but until that puppy pops up right there, we will. Oh, that wasn't what I expected, huh? I had that tweet pulled up, and then let's go back to what we had here. Good Lord, where was it? See if I can find it. Nope, I cannot find it. Let's see, is this it? Here we go. All right, just found it. So look, I had to be really real. It's time at some point. You just got to say, enough's enough. So I responded saying, oh, for F's sake, the SEC cannot even hold up one of its fundamental missions to protect investors, but they have time to talk about climate change. Seriously, Enforcement Mom? For real? For real? How about getting busy with some regulatory clarity? Nope. 24/7 nonsense coming from the SEC. Nonstop. It's pervasive. They're over there. She's putting little cute emoji rockets on there and on her thing. And she's, doing all this fun stuff. But the problem is there's a lot of chitter chatter, but they're not saying the right thing. The SEC is in complete disarray. So she took it upon herself and Elad Roisman to draft a whole blog post about climate change. How much time do you have? And what you ought to be worried, if you're not going to protect your investors, why are you going to be going after enforcement? It's insane to me. I'm really, I think she's gone crazy town. She's over there dancing around like, hey, everything's great. And you're like, well, that lava's about to crush that city over there and all those thousands and 10,000 of investors that invested in digital assets. Yeah, but look, the sun's out. This is kind of like the attitude she sort of has. It's mind-boggling to me. It's completely null and void of any sort of reality checks and everything. I don't know. I don't know how much time do you have in a day to really talk about climate change? How about if you talk about, and she comes out too, the other post she put up is, we haven't been that efficient. Then she gets interviewed. I know. We should be more proficient we should be more proactive about really providing regulatory clarity. But don't worry, Congress will do it. Congress is like, hey, SEC, hold my beer. And then it just keeps passing to this government agency and this government agency. Meanwhile, Department of Justice referred to it as what? A currency. FinCEN fined Ripple and referred to it as a currency, digital asset. And Gary Gensler the other day in his statement, you remember during the hearing, I kind of see where I get it. You know, like he was going to be confirmed. The whole idea was for him to blow it. Now, if he goes like, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go in there and delete that Ripple lawsuit. I'm going to go like, no, you know, you're not going to go crazy. You've been in a job interview before. It's just a job interview. They call you up and go, yeah, you got the job, but this is a formality. You got to go through there. A bunch of people ask you questions and, you know, you just have to answer the questions. You know, just don't blow it. This is yours to blow. So he goes in there and he's like, blah, 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 the SEC, oh, blah, 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 the Howey test, oh, blah, blah, if it's a security, we'll regulate it, blah, 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 you know, all that kind of stuff. And, you know, that's really what he's doing. I mean, it's right in par with his whole gig, right? I mean, it's not anything outside the ordinary, but, yeah, I don't know what's going on with Hester Pierce, you know? I wanted to put this on screen because Mr. B had this come back. He said, hey, Commissioner Pierce, an off-topic question, if you don't mind. Does the SEC halt settlement talks while a new chairman's being sought after and confirmed, or is it just business as usual? Thank you. I love that. Mad Dog Life says, well, it should be Ripple, XRP. Get one of those letters that were being talked about during the confirmation. Bitcoin is the dirty, cold industry of crypto. XRP is clean, green, efficient Tesla. Stop your rot, SEC. So, you know, people come after it. They don't want any of it. You know, there's the decarbonized blockchain, green. We'll pass right over there. Classic pick for you to answer first. You know, people are just brutal in the comments, but, you know, you kind of have to say, well, they have it coming. They're out there dancing around about, well, the sky is beautiful and it's great. It's fantastic, but they're not really doing a lot there, right? So yeah, this is it here. Did you see her tweet about custody a day ago? This is coming from Putin the Serial. Do we need to contact our local Congress senators to rein in the SEC back to what their role is? Hey, not a bad idea. I think they're sort of, and this is what happens, by the way. So Ducky McScrooge is asking where Jeff is. Jeff is in the chat because he's 30,000 miles above us right now, flying back from a secret, undisclosed location, flying back into the On the Chain studios. And he will be back on Saturday morning at 8 a.m. He does the HODL review every single Saturday without fail. And 8 a.m., so I'm not sure what time that will be, but it's Eastern time, which is New York or Miami time. And you can catch that. Then we're back together again, riding in the saddle again. We'll be back on Sunday night where we do the roundtable. We have a guest on the roundtable. We just have to confirm, but we have a guest coming up on Sunday. Then we do Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, same time. And we take Fridays off. You know, Fridays, got to have a little bit of time off. So we basically stream live every single day except for Fridays. So there you go. Omar Kaufman says 30,000 miles above us. That's right. That's right. Okay, 30,000 feet. Did I say miles? It might be in space. That could be too. Well, you know, 30,000 feet. Miles, I like miles better because that's in space. So that's kind of cool. Thanks for correcting me on that one. I appreciate that, Omar. I can always count on you guys to... Yeah, he's on the moon. Yeah, that's right. He's on the moon. Did I say 30,000 miles? Sometimes you say stuff. You don't even really mean it. Yeah, feet. Thank you, Kelly. Appreciate that. Yeah, sometimes you say stuff and you're like, whoa, did I say that? Rob McDermott says he's dropping off coffee for the rover. That's a good idea. And Mars, yeah, pretty cool, man. Yeah, you're welcome. Anytime, Ducky McScrooge. So, yeah, I usually announce it early, but if you come in a little bit later. And last night we had Crypto Eddie that came on, and, man, she was fantastic. That went by really fast. I really enjoyed that quite a bit. Yep, yeah. There's another one that I wanted to read, but I didn't quite get to it. All right, so you know, every time I see like a story that kind of is going all kinds of sideways, or it's talking about this, once in a while you get a story like this, says Ripple prepares for a 70% upswing, and I'm like, okay, go on, you've got my attention, come at me. And I'm like, what's this all about? So I want to dive into this, and it's so the basic crux of this one is, XRP price shows signs of upswing as it bounces off a stable support barrier around the 38-cent level and bounces and crucial levels and la 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 la. So we're starting to see a little bit of this stuff where it's eyeing a little bit price higher. You know, people are doing their charts and this and that. The only person that I see that really does, amazing charts that I've seen a lot of is Blockchain Backer. I think he's the best in the business. I think his not only are his charts amazing, but his instincts are spot on. Like, you know, it's not only reading the chart, because a lot of people might look at charts and read them different, but I love how he has gut instincts about fundamentals of projects and kind of look at that from that point of view as well. Always a very good thing. And again, you know, I always like his charts a little bit better, but they say, contrary to the bullish outlook, a lackluster performance by bulls could trigger a pullback. So it's all happy faces and surprises and popping bottles, but then they go like, see, if you're a journalist, what you write, you go like, oh my God, it's going to go up by 70%. But then in the last paragraph, you go like, but by the way, you know, on a bullish outlook, could be a lackluster performance. Bulls could trigger a pullback. A correction leads to a daily candlestick close to below the 50%. The Fibonacci retracement level could be below 40%. It could possibly, and they always get you really excited. They're like, yeah, yeah. And then you go like, whoa, 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 what just happened? Somebody just put something up here. I want to read another question up here. Let's see. Let's go in here. Yeah, so Pat Prague says, hey, what's your opinion on XLM? Will it move as fast as XRP? You know, I like a lot of what's happening with XLM. You know, and a true story here, I came from the BTC crowd. You know, I was a BTC maxi at one point, bought into all the, you know, first mover, it's great, it's the best thing out there, it's in sliced bread. And the funny thing about it is you know, that's kind of how I came to it. I own Bitcoin, and then I saw XLM, and I was looking at XLM, and somebody, first I was looking at XRP, and then I heard somewhere, read, they're like, no, oh yeah, my BTC Maxi buddy said, no, that's a banker's coin. You don't want a banker's coin. He goes, you got to go with XLM because at least it's decentralized. That's Jed McCaleb, and he's, you know, he started a Ripple, but he left, and you know, I'm like, okay, I was just getting started in it. So truth be told, I owned a lot of XLM, and at one point, I still own XLM. You know, when I say a lot, I'm like, you know, I own a couple bags, right? And I really liked some of the fundamentals, and the thing about it is that I look at it like a brother, like a sibling relationship to Ripple. Now, the Stellar Foundation doesn't necessarily have a team like Ripple behind it. You know, Ripple at its core functionality is producing software that has you know, strong fundamentals, moving, you know, cross-border payments. That's just one use case they're working on, right? And leverages XRP, the digital asset. But if you look at XLM, you know, for a long time, we didn't hear a lot coming out of the Stellar Foundation. Now we're starting to see they're getting involved with the CBDCs. They're starting to get involved with some more projects. I'm starting to see some more partnerships come of it. You know, for the longest time, it was IBM. But if you look at what they're doing, I think they're making some good moves. I think they're building a really strong team over there. I've caught a couple of their webinars and some of their tweets. You know, I follow them on Twitter. And I have to say, you know, I think they're making good strides, right? And will the price, will it be within reach of, with XRP? You know, that's hard to say. I mean, it has flipped XRP, XLM surely has, you know. But I think in the grand scheme of things, they're probably going to kind of be, you know, like fighting like two little puppies, you know, like one's over here winning and the other one's over there. I mean, ultimately, I think the Ripple team and what Ripple's been laying down as far as the last 7-8 years is going to be really strong on the fundamental side. And, you know, they've got a company, a centralized company behind it, where the Stellar Foundation is it's a little bit more hands off. They're not building software, but they're making good strides, which I think is fantastic. Let's see what else. What was the other one we had here? There's another good question. Jeff and okay, so just a little. So Sherdon's having a little side conversation with Jeff, which is awesome, and some other side conversations. Yeah, let me know if you guys have any other questions. So here we go right here. David Schmall says, now that we hit 52,000, bounce back. BTC will finish correcting to a 38.35 likely by Monday, March 8th. before continuing on to set all new highs this month. Yeah, and you know what? A lot of people won't. A lot of newer people getting in will be freaked out by any sort of pullback. But it's a healthy market, right? So you might see a little bit of a sell-off, which will drive down what David's talking about here. Might drive it down a little bit. But when you're newer in the space and you're like, all right, man, everyone's getting into Bitcoin, you know, and all these companies are doing it, I think I got to dive in. And all of a sudden, you know, you get a 20% eroded over some time. You could panic. You could very well hit the panic button. And that's certainly something that many people, you know, might do. I'm trying to pull up another article. Of course, my internet's not cooperating as usual, but I wanted to. Let me see where I can. Oh boy! Oh boy! Oh boy! Oh boy! Oh boy! Holy cow! Yeah, guys. Sorry. Just trying to pull the story up here. Here it is, right here. So I want to talk about this because, you know, let's stick around that Bitcoin for a second. So, Bitcoin price going to infinity, says the Kraken CEO. So Jesse Powell made some really good statements. He's very, very bullish on XRP, talking about $1 million price tag within 10 years, very reasonable. I actually think he's actually spot on here. He says, of course, you know, we can only speculate, but when we measure it in terms of dollars, you have to think it's going to infinity. Now, I think what he's talking, when we say infinity, that it will always be on an increase, might have a pullback, but when he, you know, infinity, I mean, how do you define infinity? But I think his real crux is it's going to continue to rise, right? And 1 million, people will be like, no way. Think about it. Seriously, if I told you 3 months ago that we'd be hitting high 50s of all-time high, touching 60,000, you'd have been like, Chip, you're out of your mind, man. When I said in an earlier video, when I talked about an early video about 1.5 years, 2 years ago, I was trying to find it because I wanted to pull it up. But I talked about, is there any other traffic? Could there potentially be a private ledger? Could there be a ledger that's hidden from view? Could there be a ledger that we're not privy to? Well, I doubt that happened back then. But the whole idea of it was like, oh, no, that can't possibly be. But we found out on the announcement yesterday that, in fact, yeah, Ripple absolutely does have and did create a private ledger. It has to do it for the CBDCs. Why? Because you're talking about centralization. They certainly don't want this to be public. You know, the Saudi Arabia, you know, Crypto Eddie basically pointed this out last night. The foundation over there said, we can't use Ripple. You didn't make it to the next step because we need privacy. You know, we can't have this exposed. And so they had to sort of bend the knee. And they had to do it. They had to pull the trigger. So it could have been that, but this could have been in the works for a long time. But we know that report from the Saudi government agency came out in December, I believe. So it might have been in the works or talked about. But the fact that they can support over 5,500 different currencies and cryptocurrencies puts them in an entire league all by themselves. So that's a really strong type of a thing. Jesse Powell goes on to say that I think in the near term, people will see it as gold, as a store of value. So I think 1 million as a price target within the next 10 years is reasonable. And I think we'll find out that it could be potentially more reasonable if we start seeing that 80 to 100,000. Now you're going, okay, now that's only 10x. Then we start, you know, inching towards 150 to 200,000. And you have to remember that as more organizations like Apple Pay and all these other groups are now starting to, I saw an earlier report that there's some of the crypto ATM machines, automatic teller machines, are now going to support Doge. So now you can pay for stuff, you can buy Doge, and now Doge has a use case because of the whole Spark ecosystem, right? Or the whole Flare, I should say, the Flare with the Spark ecosystem. And you can now use Flare, you can use XRP, you can use XRP, you can use Doge, you can use Litecoin. Bitcoin's probably coming down the pike at some point. It's going to bring a lot of focus over to the DeFi space over here, and it's going to prove to be pretty valuable, pretty strong and valuable. So also for some New Yorkers, we've got a little bit of good news here. If you're from New York, shout it out in there. I'll throw you up on there. But I wanted to talk about this story coming out here. And where is it? Oh, boy. Sorry about that, guys. Just trying to find the story. And anyway, I'll jump to this one. We'll come back to that other story here. But look at this one here. Now, PayPal's been making some pretty serious moves right here. PayPal's in early stage talks to buy crypto asset security firm Curv for $500 million. Now, this firm right here, when they say they're in early talks, someone probably got wind of it to acquire this U.S. or Israeli crypto custody firm. Now, if you guys know Curv, you probably heard Curv, C-U-R-V. They do work with a bunch of exchanges for cold storage custody. They work more on the institutional side. They were founded in 2018. You're talking about, what, barely 3 years ago? They have offices based in New York. They have all the research and development is done in Tel Aviv. And of course, they decline to speculate. But think about it like this. If you're PayPal and you are moving into the space of, because right now on PayPal, it's kind of like Robinhood, right? You can go in there, you can buy Bitcoin, you can buy some other cryptos. But the problem is that you don't really own the keys, right? So it's like Robinhood, because a lot of people say, well, should I buy Bitcoin on Robinhood? I'm like, well, you could, but here's the problem. If there's a big run up and all of a sudden people start wanting to there's a big sell off, we're going to have what we saw happen just about a month ago, where you're making money if only you could take it off the exchange, right? So a scenario like that, you don't really own your keys. So you're subject to the how healthy the ecosystem is for whatever platform you're on. And if they're getting hammered, you're not going to get your crypto off there, right? So that's why I think this makes a lot of sense, because now if they buy something institutional, that means that now they're taking over the existing business. They're throwing down strongly inside of the crypto marketplace, and it's a very, very good, very good all the way around. Because if you're going to go ahead and make see, I'm freezing a little bit there. If you're going to go ahead and jump out into something, you certainly could rely on somebody else for your custody, or just go ahead and acquire it. We always talk about in the tech world, buy versus build. Yeah, you could build it. There's a lot of unknowns. You got to map out all the risks. You got to map out all the engineering team and the la. Or you go, buy. This is everything we want. We get the team. We lock the team up for a certain period of time. They're not going anywhere, because the core team you're always going to be able to lock up. And when you lock up the core team, it always bodes well, for whatever you're actually getting into. And let's talk about this next story right over here. So interestingly enough, there's a story from PayPal, but look at this. Check this one out. Ethereum is now an option on Amazon's managed blockchain service. So AWS and almost everything runs. I know all of our sites, the company that I'm with, all of our sites run on AWS, almost the whole entire world. You name the site, they run on AWS, which is Amazon Web Services. And so AWS users can now set up an Ethereum nodes and join the public Ethereum main network on Amazon's managed blockchain. So with the launch, the AWS customers can easily provision Ethereum nodes in minutes and connect to the public Ethereum main network and test networks such as Rinkeby, Rothstein said in a blog post. Now, so a little bit about this. I'll tell you one of the great things about running on AWS. And one of the reasons they became the #1 cloud infrastructure. Yeah, sure, you have Google. You also have IBM that's in the hunt. So they're 1, 2, and 3, right? But the reason Amazon's #1 is because they experienced the problem early days with their own engineering infrastructure. So rather than trust it to somebody else, sounds familiar, right? Like a PayPal type thing. Why would we trust somebody else with institutional custody when we can just do it ourselves? Buy a company. They struggle with the same thing, but they went a different route. They actually built it. They built this for their own infrastructure. And because they built it to manage so many different parts of their business, when you go look at their back end, you can spin something up. You go like, okay, you can also, when you get hit with a lot of traffic, you can plan for that. You can spin up new nodes. You can spin up little test, stage sites, all kinds of stuff. Like there's so many services there that within minutes, and that's one of the things we're talking about, that in minutes you can go ahead and set up this managed blockchain. This is huge, right? Because you're going to start seeing Amazon adopting crypto in other ways. This is more, AWS is a B2B type of a model. They're really working towards, their main thing is working towards B2B. That's what they do. So Did I just freeze? Yikes, I just did froze. Well, hopefully you guys can still hear me. You'll let me know in the chat. But, you know, like I said, I've been having a little bit of an issue with my internet. And let me see, I'm not even sharing the screen. And wow, guys, see if I come back here. Don't know if I'm going to. But anyway, let's jump into, because my internet even work. Holy cats. All right, I'm still here. I just look very sleepy and tired on screen there. Let me, can I go out and come in? I don't even know if I can. I don't want to chance it on the live stream here. So I knew it was bound to happen at some point, and bam, hit me right there. I want to talk about something else. So we talk often about what cryptocurrency means to other players in the space. For example, Iran, you know, they've been sanctioned many, many times, especially by the US and especially by SWIFT. And by going sanctioned,
come on, man, Berserker.
Even the Berserker won't play, man. Even that will not play. Holy cow. Now I'm completely frozen up here, not liking this. Hopefully they can get this resolved. And guys, let me know in the chat if you still even hear me, but I will continue on. If you hear me, that's awesome. Iran officially plans to adopt Bitcoin mining to bypass international sanctions. So this is a huge story, because Iran is going to sidestep any kind of sanctions. Now, what does that usually entail? Well, if you're specifically looking at Bitcoin, right? If you're specifically talking about digital assets, I'm back. If you're specifically, yeah, okay, good. There you go. Thank you. All right, excellent. I'm glad you guys can hear me. Hopefully this will be getting fixed. I have a tech coming here. I've been working with their tech support trying to fix it. There is a known issue, which makes me feel happy, because then known issues can usually be fixed. So they're talking about the Iranian Presidential Center for Strategic Studies in a detailed report is encouraging the country to adopt Bitcoin. Wow. And other cryptocurrencies mining to bypass international sanctions. Center with close ties to President Hassan Rouhani wants the state to leverage digital assets, untraceable nature, to outsmart the sanctions. So if you, and again, we kind of knew this was happening, and I don't believe for a moment that this just happened. I believe this is going public. We know that they've had power issues because they've been mining the hell out of Bitcoin. But it's interesting that now that they're going public about it, they're like, hey, let's go public with this whole thing and let's talk about this, right? So they are going to simultaneously, the think tank believes that providing a friendly environment for mining facilities will create more employment opportunities. So you see how they're tying it to employment, turning it into a positive, stresses the need to ensure the country has enough power supply to cater the mining activities. So yeah, we're finally synced up, Norseman. That's right. I love when we get synced up. We get synced up. That's always a good thing. Lip syncing like Android, because I can say something and then my mouth moves. I'm trying to do the it's the bad lip syncing type of a moment, right? Milli Vanilli mode. You know the worst thing about that whole Milli Vanilli thing is that when I said, thank God those two nut jobs weren't really singing. And I thought, you know, they'll just bring out the real people that were singing, and then they'll be famous because they were awesome, right? No, the whole thing just died. It's like, oh, you weren't really singing. I'm like, well, great, bring the real singers out. Why wouldn't they be the stars? So I mean, that made zero sense to me. I mean, overall. Not so fast. Packet loss is back. Yeah. So what it is my up speed. It's really weird. It's I'll run a speed test. I'll be 1.9 megabits going up, and then at some point I'll be 10, and then I'll be 12, and it's all over the board. So there's some kind of a thing. They even tried to remotely increase the speed, but they can't even do that. Yeah. So now, yeah, there you go. Kim Crypto Novice says, looks like you're doing a face yoga to look younger. It's working. Yes. Yes. Have you guys seen that thing that you bite on and it creates a stronger jaw? There's a lot of those things all over the place, man. Where's the other dude hiding? The other dude right there is Jeff is he's flying back right now. He's 30,000 feet, not miles. Don't want to make the mistake again, man. Get hammered in that chat. People will be like, no, Chip, he's not 30,000 miles. He's not on the moon. But I could say stuff like that. So yeah, man, my other screen just froze. So I'm about to freeze probably any moment here. Man, oh man, oh man, oh man. I don't know what has gotten into. I was hoping to pull this. I just want to be able to pull this one story up and I can get to it. Where is it? I open them all up. Yeah, Yeah, I want to talk about Coinbase a little bit because let me see, guys. Let's see if this works. Let's see if it works. Does that work? Yeah, it does. Okay. So let's talk a little bit about Coinbase. I want to talk about this because this is, I find this whole thing to be insane. So there's a regular and pro version for more. They're talking about the basic service, wallet service, Coinbase card, USD card, Coinbase Commerce. A lot to like about it. End-to-end infrastructure that they don't talk about the part where if you want to cash out, it doesn't really work that well. Flywheel effects. Coinbase's technology and products bring new investors and partners to the platform. 90% of retail investors come via word of mouth or organic search. Think about that for a second. 90% word of mouth. That means you told somebody, or they have such a great SEO position. 90% is amazing to get the traffic. 10% comes from other areas. But what I like about this article is they really summed it up. They say, while crypto brokerages aren't insured federally by SIPC, Coinbase insures any losses from theft or hacks. Company, let's look at the growth. In 2020, it more than doubled its annual revenue, going from $500 million to $1.3 billion. And, we talk about this all the time. Where's the mass adoption? Look at that. That's insane. They doubled it. And so if I had to ask you guys, maybe you guys saw it on screen, but I want to ask you in the chat, why don't you guys take a guess? What is every single user? By the way, Jay Giles band, I was listening to that today. I saw them in concert, Professor X. I don't know where that came from. You're freaking me out a little bit because that came up in one of my playlists and I'm like, whoa, that's weird. So anyway, a little sidetrack there, but how much is each user on average worth to Coinbase? Take a guess. I want to see some guesses in here. I want to see what you guys think right here. Angel in the Centerfold, that was the tune that came up. Yeah, I saw them do that live. It came up my playlist, so it was really weird you guys are talking about it, man. Jay Giles. Do you guys know who Jay Giles was in the band, by the way? Was he the singer? No. Peter Wolf was the singer. Just letting you know, a little obscure. Actually, Jay Giles passed away a couple years ago. But he was a great guitar player. Okay, $3,000. Okay, $3,000. Again, this is how much they make off of a user. So 3,000, 5,000, 569. 0.1 Bitcoin. Robert Morris, 500. My Blood Runs Cold, another good one. Berserker, 8,000. This is good. I'm seeing a winner in here, but I want you guys to continue guessing because I love the guesses here, what you guys are doing here. But yeah, so if we think about what is each user worth, plus their subscriptions products have grown by 126% year over year. 21% of retail investors also use other products on the platform. Unit revenue could increase. So the fundamentals and the outlooks are really good. Enough, Good Karma says, enough as a good average bank in U.S. Coinbase is worth. KDU says, what up, fam? Love the harmonica player. Yeah, he was awesome, wasn't he? He was really cool. Let's see who had it first. So Kelly guessed 10,000. David Schmall said 3,000. Freeze Frame was another one. Man, I can't believe we're talking about Jay Gals. How weird is this? Gary Youngblood Gensler from the Rolling 60s, Southside Crips. Oh, they cracking me up, Ronnie Size. What else do we have here? We had 569. Okay, that's close. 0.15. See, nope. And I'll tell you, two people nailed it right on there, but I'll tell you the first person that got it. Robert Morris nailed it. $500. Coinbase makes about $500 per user. And I saw somebody else had it in here as well. Texas Crypto guessed spot on. $500 is what they make on average per user. That's a lot more than I expected, but the fees, right? Buying crypto. So I thought it might have been a little bit lower. Also, their growth since 2012, the space has grown 150% year over year. So I know we're talking about Coinbase, but I want you guys to hear the actual facts here of what does the marketplace, because they're talking about the entire industry, 150% every year. So it's more than doubling itself. The market is now worth $782 billion. It's actually worth more than that. I mean, we've touched over $1 trillion. Actually, Bitcoin hit $1 trillion on top of that. Intercompany expansion, they're offering retailers the equivalent of PayPal, but for crypto. See, so Again, you see how they're going back to legacy there, talking about PayPal because it's something that normal people will understand. And this is a newsletter that goes out to about investment news. Pent-up demand. This will be the first major non-cryptocurrency asset for retail investors to buy. Venture capitalists like Slow Ventures predict high future demand. So you can see that what we're getting from the experts is very bullish on the success of an exchange like Coinbase, on what they're up to. But then they have to always talk about the risk. One of the risks in their filing talked about Satoshi Nakamoto saying that if the identity was given away, that could hurt the market if that person was identified and they outed, so to speak, or doxed Satoshi Nakamoto, could potentially hurt, because that was one of the things that they talked about, the risk. So one of the things they say, obviously there's inherent volatility. You have 96% of Coinbase's revenue is from transaction fees, right? So if you think about that, if you're not buying crypto, you're just a hodler, well, guess what? You're not making much money. So that's one of the risky things. 4% is derived from maybe other things. And so that's a heavy risk right there. The status quo, the vision for cryptos to be directed money substitute. However, most people view it as an asset, right? Class to acquire and hold. Bitcoin's average hold time has surpassed 1,000 days. So that's another dependence on select cryptos. 56% of their Coinbase volume has been in Bitcoin and Ethereum. Well, that's because they have obscure coins, but a lot of the things that we might want to go, I don't think they have HBAR yet. I don't think they have VeChain. I don't think a lot of the things that, the more popular, Quant, they have their coin selection is really remarkably small compared to like a Binance.us or Gemini or Kraken. They just don't have a lot of the things. Or a BitTrue, for example. BitTrue has a lot more selection. They just dwarf it. And so you go look at a coin, you're like, okay, where can I potentially purchase this coin? So you try to find out, places you might be able to buy it from. And then they go on to say regulation, which is a big one because this is huge. Although lacking now, extensive regulation to be expected in the near future as the industry grows. Yeah, tell Ripple, hold my beer, please. Are you kidding me? Uh-oh, you knew they were going to talk about illicit activity. Critics see the space as being lawless and experimental. Yeah, after 11, almost 12 years now, 1% of all crypto transactions are estimated to be illicit dealings. Well, if we added up in the whole history of time, how much would Bitcoin, if we added that total up, what would that look like? I have to say that it would be way surpassed 1%. You go back to 500-600 years ago, or back to when we had Roman gold coins, and silver coins, it's going to far surpass that. Then they actually talk about competitors. They say newcomers like Back with an upcoming $2 billion IPO. Well, that's fine, but this is over $100 billion. So how did it go from $8 billion to $100 billion in valuation? Well, in total, they raised $450 million. The last round in 2018 was just, so they got a valuation in 2018. They were valued at $8 billion. Now we know that Ripple is valued at $10 billion with a giant B. So what happened? Well, starting in January, they started selling weekly batches of up to 1.8 million shares via NASDAQ's private market to test the appetite and price. Each week's shares went for increasingly more money. Eventually, each share went for about $400 a share, translating to $100 billion market cap. And you go like, well, how big is $100 billion? Well, one of the bigger, projects out there is Ripple. Ripple's their last valuation came in at $10 billion. And that valuation of what is the company worth is what they use when new investors come in and they acquire, whatever the shares are, depending on how they delegate the shares. But if you put $1 million into it, it's going to be, you're going to own a very small share, right? If you put $1 billion in, yeah, we're talking about 10% territory, but no one's putting $1 billion in, right? So that's what they're saying. So who's getting richer in the IPO? Now these numbers, man, this rocked me right here. So we know Brian Armstrong, the CEO. He's 38 years old. He's a former B&B engineer. He made nearly $60 million in 2020 alone. But check this out. Surajit Chatterjee, he's the chief product officer, former Google exec, made $16 million last year. What? Paul Grenwall, he's the chief legal office former Facebook exec, made 18 million last year. Then we had Fred Arsam. He's a board member, former Goldman Sachs trader, over 500,000 shares in Coinbase, right? Of course, we know about the investors, Andreessen Horowitz, Initialized Capital, Tiger Global, Y Combinator. And beyond the success of Coinbase, a strong IPO would legitimize crypto in a major way. And this is the important thing I want to focus on, because it spotlights a crypto company. Now, yeah, you have your feelings about Coinbase, and I know they can't handle the bull run very well. And when something goes up, yeah, we have an issue, right? But remember, we're talking about mainstream. It brings in mainstream investors without needing to buy underlying assets like Bitcoin or Ether. And Coinbase will allow more Wall Street and retail investors to add crypto to their portfolio. This is why it's a huge deal. And this is one of the things that, I really, really am excited about, just because people will start asking the question, like people that buy traditional stocks will be like, oh crap, who is Coinbase? $100 billion, and they're going to a direct listing. They're bypassing the whole initial public offering where they value it. It's a lot better, we're finding, because they can do a direct listing. They don't have to, they can raise it from, a different investor class, right? And I think it's going to become the only way to do it, because IPOs can be weird. The other problem with an IPO is that when you do your initial public offering, it's also based on a valuation, which can change rapidly. I mean, when Facebook with IPO, they hit a certain number and they slid right down. So that's one of the things that somebody put another really good statement up here. I wanted to read Coinbase too sensitive. Here we go, Mel. Says, I can't get their damn confirmation to finish setting it up, so I gave it up. Yeah, so I understand that. That's understandable. Apex says Celsius.network is far superior to Coinbase. Look, I mean, Alex Mashinsky, who's been on the program, he's been here on the stream with Jeff and I just think the guy's a winner, right? I love Celsius. Ajo Cease, he loves Celsius as well. I mean, just an amazing dude. This is his sixth startup, and he's also, a pioneer in the space, especially when it comes to voice over IP. I tell people, look, do your own research, look at what you have to do, what you're comfortable with. Because a lot of friends have been reaching out to me lately saying, Chip, which exchange do you trust? And my answer is none of them, okay? No, I don't trust any of them, because any of them, there's not one you go like, well, this is the one I trust. This is the one you kind of like, maybe you mitigate the risk and has less risk at it. But I'm certainly not going to tell somebody. I said, look, I can name a bunch of exchanges. Go read up on them. Go look at what people are saying about them. And you got to come to your own conclusion, because otherwise, you're just taking someone else's advice. And remember me doing that. I mentioned this earlier tonight, that I went ahead and did that. And I had the wrong impression about XRP. And then I started looking between the lines going, this is just bull pup. This is nasty. This is garbage, right? It doesn't mean anything. And, I get back to everything we look at from here on out comes to decentralization. And decentralization means everything. It means freedom. And, we know that Twitter talked about putting a team called Blue Sky about a year and a half on, trying to look at what that might look like to make Twitter decentralized. I was really excited to get into now that Twitter has Spaces. So Spaces is like Clubhouse, where it's audio only. But I like it because it can involve the whole Twitter sphere. And I tweeted something out the other night. We did a bunch of things, but I got in there with a lot of people, high profile people I follow on Twitter, and I was in a session talking about a new feature they were in providing feedback. And I'm like speaking on there, it's audio only, but it was fantastic. So I love the fact that I would never have that kind of accessibility. So in the future, we might roll out some spaces where we just put it together and you guys can join that. And all you have to do is on Twitter, just acknowledge, your microphone, whether you're on Android or iOS, and you go in there. And Jeff and I were in there chatting the other day. It was after a live stream. That's another use case where we might say, guys, we're gonna go see you on Spaces. So we'll have people and we can mingle. It was great to be able to mingle with you guys, and talk with you, and that way you come in. Maybe we'll do like a little after show, 1 or 2 nights, maybe do 20 to 30 minutes, just an after show. Let other people speak instead of us. I think that's great. Guys, subscribe and click that bell. It's really important to click that bell, and please go ahead and sub to the other channel. We're trying to build that other channel up. Helps us motivate to get some videos popped in over there. They're short uploads. They're not live streams. That's why we have OTC Live. And we call the other one a standard because standard, sort of uploads. And when it comes down to it, we can subscribe to our podcast. You go to pod.co. Actually, I'll give you another one. Actually, if you guys look down and I don't want to click on this because I'm having decent success. Only froze once. Not that bad, right? But you guys can go to pod.co/on-the-chain, or you can go to otc.one/podcast. That's the other one that we have that pulled up. So we have our own otc.one/podcast. Let me put that in the chat there. I'll drop that in there. But guys, we're starting to see the numbers pop up in here, and we're seeing a lot of regular listeners. And really excited to see Mexico in the top 5. We'll share those stats at some point as we start growing that. But it's really cool to see that. Here we go. Let's put this up. Bam. So if you guys go right there, it's otc.one/podcast. And that's how you can get to, another way you can get to our podcast right there. And as always, always miss my co-host Jeff not being on here, going solo. I don't know how he does it every Saturday morning. And it's always a lot easier when you don't have some technical failures, but you guys always make it worthwhile. All your comments in here. Appreciate that, Rod McDermott. Thank you. Really appreciate that. What's up, Chip? Alex D always comes in right at the tail end. Alex D, if you don't know Alex D, go sub to he put some uplifting stuff together on XRP. Great blogger, great friend of the show. Deaton is epic. That if you guys haven't watched John Deaton's latest video, it is phenomenal. I loved it. And it looks like I'm freezing up a bit. Yeah, I love my friends too. Ronnie Size says, I love my friends. And John Doe Crypto, man, it was a nice chat with you earlier today. Maybe the moon will land before we're unlocked. John Doe Crypto. Yeah, I had a nice little conversation. Well, what do you call it? A text conversation, but it was good chatting with you, man. Really appreciated that. Cheers from Brazil, says Marcelo Lopez. Cheers. Yeah, I tell you all the time that my son-in-law is Brazilian from Sao Paulo, married to my oldest daughter. There you go. Boom, holy moly. Thank you, Chip. Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, guys. I like that to be able to be in here and when we're actually officially going off the air. So that's it. Be back Saturday morning at 8 a.m. Jeff's doing his stream. That's the Hodder Review. We'll be back here on Sunday night at 8 p.m. Be here. We're going to have a really cool guest on, and undisclosed at this point, but we'll have a really cool guest on, and come and check it out. And that's all I really have. Love you guys. Have a great one, and I'll see you on the next one. Take care.
Are you down with OTC? Please like, subscribe, and click the bell to be notified when the next video drops.